Oh, you're such a sweet baby. Mwah! That was some claws. Anyway. Hello, sunshines and death rays. Let's talk about guilt. A big part of living with one or more invisible disability that affects your daily life is to fall short of what you thought you could do during one day. What happens then? Like, I don't know about you, but I usually end up with long series of negative thoughts, harmful thoughts, telling myself that I'm terrible, why I'm terrible, and asking myself why I even bothered to try in the first place. Never mind everything I did right. Like, let's talk about all of the things that I did wrong in all of my life. Let's talk about the situations that were not even in my control, but make them look like they actually were my fault in the end. If you relate to this, I have a question for you. You do realize that you're literally abusing yourself, right? Would you ever talk to someone else the way you talk to yourself? I'd be appalled to tell anyone half the sentences that I come up with to beat myself up. I'm rude as hell. My high school bullies got nothing on my own inner bully. I am such a bitch to myself. Did you ever ask yourself why? When did we start treating ourselves like crap? And worse, why do we keep at it? Good old childhood trauma is usually the blame. I don't know about you, but I've been called a gifted child with a bright future and so many options and possibilities in my life, and all of the roads were open to me. Or maybe you were straight up living in a super toxic environment, or both, because when it rains it pours, or maybe your situation is entirely different. There's all kinds of ways to end up here. I was this gifted kid who didn't have to study, drew a lot, played piano, and read a lot of books. I was often congratulated on being such a calm kid who didn't bother anyone. Or told I was an old soul, which just means I aged straight from 5 years old to 30. I could have used a drink then, but like somewhere in the middle of my teens, my skills weren't quite enough to distinguish myself anymore. My reading wasn't so much of a prowess or anything. People would ask like, why aren't you outside? It's super nice outside. And you're always reading anyways, just go outside. Or the fact that I learned English from playing video games for so long. I was spending my nights, my evenings, my everything on the computer playing and literally learning a new language because high school failed me in English. Well, no, I aced my courses, but the high school itself failed at teaching me English. But people would be like, you should really stop just playing games all the time and reading all the time and go outside more and everything. I'm not saying that's wrong advice. I mean, going outside and exercising is good. I still don't do it. I mean, come on, have you been outside mosquitoes? No. Moving on. It's not about the specifics. Like it's not about what was said to us. It's about that change from, oh, such a nice, calm kid, to why aren't you more like this? Whatever this is for whoever's talking. It's a shift in attitude towards us that we didn't quite understand. I still don't. And it's about the criticism or sometimes even barely hidden insults that we got, and the obvious feeling of being let down that we saw on many faces as we grew up. And I'm not talking about like mom and dad. I'm talking about, extended family or whoever that would say that we were awesome earlier and would be like, you're actually not how I wanted you to turn out, and I'm going to hold you responsible for that. So many people that affect us from the start to finish in our childhood and even later. Like, it's not, I don't even think it's conscious. We don't really know at that time like what we did wrong, but we know that we failed or that we messed up and that we weren't good enough. It's not quite right, but that's what we internalized. It's not true, obviously. We're not responsible for what people expected of us, whether they voiced it or not. We're still not responsible for what people expect of us. I mean, some people have responsibilities, but I mean, in general, like people who just think we're gonna go a certain route, we don't owe them anything. And I think we internalized that and just kept it, inside as an inside voice type thing, and an afterthought that's just like, yeah, you suck. Or just a feeling that we're just not really good, and that whatever we do that is not like 100% perfect is not up to standards. Whose standards? I don't even know. It translates in a day-to-day basis as well. We tend to put so much weight on each small thing we have to do on our to-do list. Even more than the overall progress. It's more than I can cover in one video, okay? But habits, tasks, and achievements all work very differently for us. Like us with ADHD, neurodivergence in general, executive dysfunction, our lovely, terrible mistress, anxiety, chronic pain, all of these things affect us on a day-to-day, and we can't just expect for us to be able to follow a route or a task or a to-do list, or it doesn't quite work for us as it would for any neurotypical person. It just doesn't work. Consistency and repetition are not a given for people with ADHD or all of the other things that I listed. Is starting to be a little bit of a long list, but invisible disabilities in general. Some days we just can't deal with the thing. We just can't. Executive dysfunction is so real and so painful to live with. I'll cover these subjects in future videos, but for now I really want to talk about how harmful it is to blame yourself for things that are out of your control. There is no need for it. There's no need to call yourself lazy or useless, and you're not pathetic. Ask yourself this: when has guilt ever served you? When has self-loathing ever encouraged you or motivated you into getting shit done? Anger can sometimes trigger some things to get done. I've been there myself, but most of the time it's really just hurting you. And even when you do end up getting something done with like an anger trigger, it doesn't really feel quite good. So I don't recommend that. When you overthink, listen to yourself. Doesn't it feel like you're trying to discourage yourself from even trying? And I'm not going to start giving you motivational crap about talking to yourself nicer and giving you like sentences to rehearse and talk to yourself in the mirror and everything. I'm not really a big fan of that, but I really just want to put the process of your self-hatred to light and really listen to it and really just like, okay, so I'm listening to my brain, and this is really odd and a little bit surprising. I am taken aback and I do not like this type thing. There's so much going on to our brain. But this one kind of seems to stay in the background very often, and I want to put it to the foreground and for really like realize just how terrible that voice is to you. Like, there's this saying, you can catch more flies with honey than vinegar. It's not flawless, but it's got a point. I rarely get anything done by being an asshole to myself and putting myself down and telling myself I'm useless and pathetic. That kind of behavior usually makes me want to sink into my mattress and disappear and just not do anything that day or that week or that month. Just, not do anything on my to-do list and waste my day away. I don't really feel better about it later either. The whole process and the results suck. So why are we doing this to ourselves? I don't have a cure-all solution for you. Although I am working on finding better tools and solutions, trying to figure out, with therapy and with a lot of research, trying to find tips and tricks and actual real solutions that actually are going to make a difference in our lives. Stay tuned for that, but it is not in this video. I am so sorry. However, I do have some tips that work for me. Not 100%, they don't work all the time, but they do have a positive impact overall. So I'm going to give you those. I have, I think, 5 tips or 6. I'm not sure. But number 1, make the to-do list. On bad executive dysfunction days, it may look like one task was divided into 5 mini tasks, but do it anyway. And put a checkbox on all of the mini tasks. Like yesterday, I had laundry, and it was, like, okay, so put laundry, put detergent, start laundry machine, put laundry in the dryer, start the dryer, take the laundry out of the dryer. And they all had a tiny checkbox on them, and I just feel like visually it kind of helps. Like okay, it was 6 checkbox to make that one thing, but it felt good to just write it every time and just like, oh wait, this is done, this is done, this is done. Like, it's like my brain is just like, oh yay, dopamine from actually doing something. But it actually kind of works. Not always, but it does. So make that to-do list, divide it in how many smaller tasks you need to get the actual task done, like the laundry, and most of the time, or at least often, hopefully it will help. On the subject of laundry, if you tend to forget your laundry like me, set alarms for it to remind yourself that you have laundry in, and you should not forget it for 2 weeks. It also works for things like dishwashers, microwaving food, turning off the oven, etc. It's just my laundry machine has a sound when it ends. However, I am very deaf. I can't hear it. So I'll put, an alarm on my phone, which I'm filming with, so I don't know why I searched for it. I put an alarm on my phone, like a couple minutes after, so that I don't have to get up and be like, oh, it's actually not done. And that alarm helps me not forget the laundry for days. Days. I know you know. I'm not alone. But like, if you forget your food in the microwave, just put an alarm for 3 minutes later, or however time you put on it. Just extra alarms will help. Number 3, pick your battles. Sometimes what I can do in a day is the bare minimum, or even less than that. And that's what it is. Not every fight is worth fighting. And sometimes just leaving that to-do list alone is not such a bad idea. Number 4, don't get stuck in your list. You wrote down your tasks in no particular order, and they don't have to be done in a particular order either. Just look at your to-do list, and if you can't do the 5th point, skip it. Come back to it. Or don't. I mean, just don't stop yourself because of a list that is in this order. Just keep going. There are other things on that list that you have to do or that you want to do, and if one of them just doesn't work for you, don't let it stop your entire day. Particularly with executive dysfunction, it's definitely a thing that you have that list and you're stopped at that specific point and you will just not move on. Don't do that to yourself. Sometimes when I had a very, very bad executive dysfunction day, I would actually put my tasks on Post-its, 1 per Post-it, so I could move them around. It's actually not a bad idea. Put your little to-do list on Post-its. It takes a lot of Post-its though. But on the worst days, it's actually a fix if it can help you. Number 5, if you have any, take your meds. I use an app on my phone for reminders on top of alarms, like 2 different places. And I still sometimes miss my meds, but it's still more rare now that I use those 2. And don't just take this advice for ADHD meds. Like, I am talking about all of the meds you're supposed to take. They're there for a reason. I mean, hopefully they're the good dosage and everything, and they're not like screwing up your day. If that's the case, you should talk to your doctor about it to like adjust the dosage or anything. But those pills are there for whatever reason. They're there to help you through your day and work on whatever they've been prescribed for. So don't leave them behind. Like, they're supposed to make your life better. So try to let them help you. And finally, number 6, listen to your inner voice a little bit more. I just put it to the forefront and listen to it a little bit more closely. Notice how mean it is to you. And ask yourself, will you talk like this to your best friend? Or a family member if you still talk to them? Or a child? Start to tune into it and just like react to it like, wow, that was just mean. Or what the fuck do you do in a day? I know it's frowned upon to talk to yourself in public, so maybe you should take that one just like at home. But I encourage you to challenge that mean commentary inside your head, either mentally or vocally, whatever works for you. It may have some harsh words for you, but this voice is quite literally inside your head and not contributing to your well-being in any shape or form. So maybe it's time to change that tone. I don't know. In the end, this video, it's more about taking conscience than taking action. I want you to stop for a second and actively listen to what's going on inside your head and what's going on in that inner monologue, and maybe even get pissed at it. It's not treating you right. Challenge that jerk in your head. It's not the type of energy you want in your life. It's got a lot of sass for something that can't do anything. Challenge your thoughts. Challenge your inner thoughts. And tell it to fuck off because you're busy. I know it's easier said than done. I know. I'm still working on it myself. So it's not like I claim to have terminated my inner monologue or anything, or made it be nice to me. I would love that, but I'm definitely not at that point either. But getting a little bit frustrated at it and challenging it and talking back at it has been very helpful so far. Kind of just realizing that it doesn't have that much power over me. I promise you that when I get a more tangible way of dealing with guilt and self-loathing and all of these things, I will make sure to let you know. I'll make a video about it. I will gush about the whole thing and tell you everything. We gotta remember, we're all works in progress. I'm barely a coherent thought on my best days. If anything, you can just relate to the videos and be like, yes! If it even just helps you realize that you're not alone, and realize that a lot of people are struggling too, I mean, it's all I ask, really. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe, like, and leave me a comment. If you have any ideas about working on this issue, or if you have any thoughts about this video, in general, I always love to hear from you. So, see you next week for my next video, and love you guys. I hope you have an amazing weekend.